Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are strapping in for a journey into, well, what you might call the darkest heart of post-war corporate power.
Right, a world where the most significant events of modern history weren't shaped by heads of state, but by something else entirely.
We're talking about a hidden cabal, industrialists, financiers, and really terrifyingly, former Nazi officials.
This deep dive is built on sources that uncover something called the Sigma Protocol. And when you look at the documents we've analyzed, I mean, it reads like a historical inventory of shadows.
What kind of documents are we talking about?
Corporate filings from 1945, intelligence memos that detail assassinations, forensic reports that all point to this coordinated global effort to just eliminate witnesses.
So according to the source material, this isn't some fringe theory.
No, not at all. This is the operational blueprint of a global shadow government that has apparently been running the world for 70 years.
Our mission today is, well, it's ambitious. We're going to try and unmask this entity. We'll trace its origins from the rubble of World War II all the way to its horrifying ultimate goal.
And it's not just about geopolitical control. It's about the biological mechanism for achieving immortality for a chosen few.
It's a huge narrative, high finance, betrayal, terrifying science.
And it all begins, as these stories so often do, with a seemingly routine and utterly fatal trip to Switzerland.
So let's really set the scene here. We're in Zurich.
On the Bahnhofstrasse specifically.
Hmm.
You know, the place sophisticated, lined with linden trees, all those expensive shops.
And it has huge, imposing limestone mansions that house the big banks, the heart of global finance.
Exactly. And that's where we meet Ben Hartman. He's the heir presumptive to Hartman Capital Management, a massive multi-billion-dollar empire.
He's just there performing a kind of corporate ritual, right? A standard meeting.
Yeah, a cordial meeting with Dr. Rolf Grendelmeyer of the Union Bank of Switzerland, UBS. But for Ben, Zurich itself is it's steeped in personal tragedy.
Right, because of his brother.
His identical twin brother, Peter. He hasn't been back in 4 years, not since Peter died in a plane crash near Lake Lucerne. It was a brutal crash, the fuselage exploded, and the body was only identifiable by dental records.
So that weight, that unresolved grief, is right there with him on the street.
And it's immediately, violently eclipsed by terror.
The routine trip turns deadly. Instantly.
He's ambushed, and the person who ambushes him is someone he recognizes immediately. His old college friend, Jimmy Cavanaugh.
But this isn't a reunion.
It's an execution attempt. The sources convey the shock of it, the sheer professional audacity. This isn't a mugging.
Ben reacts. He defends himself instinctively. He's carrying skis.
Right, and he uses them as a makeshift weapon, just slams Cavanaugh on the neck. And at that exact moment,
His shot goes off.
a bullet shatters a glass storefront nearby. Immediate muzzle fire in one of the most upscale, secure districts in the entire world.
A chase follows. It's described as frantic, leading down into the subterranean shopping arcade, Shopville.
Which is the largest underground arcade in Europe. It suddenly becomes this backdrop for a high-stakes assassination attempt.
They're screaming pandemonium.
And the tragic detail that an old man is hit by a stray bullet and just collapses. A civilian casualty, which confirms right away this is not some personal dispute. This is professional.
Ben's survival instincts, which have been honed over years as an adventurer and a pilot, they just kick in.
He runs past a luggage store and, purely on instinct, snatches a large, brushed steel briefcase.
And he uses it as a shield.
He sees the reflection of a second burst of fire in the polished facade of a jewelry store and just brings the briefcase up. An incredible dramatic escape.
But the immediate consequence is catastrophic for him.
Absolutely, because when the police finally arrive, the whole situation is flipped on its head. Kavanaugh is found dead, shot.
And the murder weapon, a Walther PPK, is conveniently planted right in Ben's tan leather satchel. The frame job is perfect.
And the lead detective, Schmid, he sees the discrepancy right away. His questioning is designed to trap Ben. The line that really stood out was, "You say your friend had a gun, and that you did not. In which case, why is he dead, and not you?"
Ben is instantly the prime suspect for a murder he didn't commit. And that was probably part of the plan all along. Eliminate the target, frame the survivor.
This is the street-level view of it all. But at the same time, this event has triggered much bigger alarm bells thousands of miles away in Washington, D.C.
Suggesting this wasn't just an isolated incident.
No. In D.C., we meet Agent Anna Navarro. She's with the U.S. Department of Justice's Office of Special Investigations, the OSI.
She's a fascinating character. Tenacious, smart.
But an outsider. Always the outsider, fighting the bureaucracy, fighting her unsupportive superior, Dupree, just to hold her ground.
But she's been noticed by someone important.
She's recruited by Alan Bartlett, the head of the very secretive, very powerful Internal Compliance Unit, or ICU.
So the ICU is essentially the government's internal watchdog for clandestine corruption.
Exactly. And Bartlett introduces the deep mystery that connects Ben's attack to this global conspiracy.
And this really is the core mission statement for you, the listener. Bartlett assigns Anna to investigate a statistical curiosity.
A curiosity that has become a statistically improbable pattern of death. Over several months, 11 men have died.
And these aren't random. They're all over the globe.
U.S., Switzerland, England, Italy, Spain, Sweden, Greece, and all of them, officially, from natural causes.
So what's the connection?
They were all linked to these ancient Sigma clearance files, dating all the way back to the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, the CIA's precursor in the mid-40s.
This isn't a coincidence.
No, this pattern screams of a highly targeted, coordinated elimination campaign. It's tied to a secret organization that's half a century old, the Sigma Protocol.
Bartlett concludes the actuarial odds of these 11 men, all linked to the same dormant files, dying naturally in sequence wars.
Remote at best. If the organization that killed Kavanaugh is also behind these 11 deaths, then you're dealing with a structure that's been operating globally and with perfect efficiency for decades.
So Ben is on the run. He's hunted by the Swiss police for a murder he didn't commit. And now we know he's being targeted by professionals who are way more dangerous than the police.
His first, most logical step is to call a friend, Howie, to get some background on the supposed killer, Jimmy Kavanaugh.
And this is where it goes from a simple assassination attempt to a massive conspiracy.
Instantly. Howie can find absolutely nothing on Jimmy Kavanaugh.
Nothing at all.
Zip. No records of him attending Princeton, no credit history, no social security number, no military files. He is, to use the term from the sources, totally off the grid.
Wow. So the attacker wasn't just a killer, he was a ghost. A professional operative using a completely fabricated identity, perfectly tailored to Ben's past.
The resources required just to create that cover story are massive. Who has that kind of power to just invent a person?
Only an organization that operates above and outside conventional systems.
Right. And Ben quickly realizes his trip to Zurich must have been the tripwire. That cordial, seemingly pointless meeting with Dr. Grundelmeyer at the bank. It wasn't pointless at all.
It must have flagged an old, sensitive account, maybe one Peter had accessed years before.
They were monitoring the Hartman name. They were waiting, anticipating that one of the heirs might eventually come digging for information.
Ben narrowly escapes a police raid, avoiding the warrant by just minutes, and he heads toward a town called Chur to find Peter's old friend, Frederick McCall, desperate for help.
And the pursuit is immediate and, again, utterly professional. On the A3 highway, Ben spots a dark blue Saab.
And it isn't just tailgating him.
No, it's aggressively synchronizing its speed with his, maintaining this fixed, unnerving distance. It's a textbook surveillance technique.
And then they spring the trap. With horrifying efficiency.
The Saab just suddenly parks laterally across this narrow road, completely blocking his path, an instant roadblock.
And he realizes there's a gray Renault sedan coming up fast from behind to box him in. It's a classic pincer move. Zero escape.
But Ben has this reckless streak, something he inherited from his father. He doesn't stop.
He floors it.
Floors the gas pedal, rams his Opel sedan right into the lighter sports car, pushing the Saab aside just enough to squig through and escape. His own car is ruined, but he's free. For now.
It just highlights the desperation of a situation.
And the ruthless dedication of his pursuers.
Driving his wrecked car, he pulls into a remote village, stops at this deserted place, the Katzkeller Beer Hall, just to regroup.
And that's where he sees him. A familiar, deeply disturbing figure. The ponytail man.
The same sallow-complexioned man he'd briefly noticed milling around the Baumhofstrasse moments before the ambush.
Exactly. This confirms it. The initial hit was just the opening act. He is now under persistent professional surveillance by people who are highly trained and clearly willing to kill civilians to get to him.
So he wisely escapes through a kitchen service entrance.
And this leads to the central, shocking twist that unravels everything Ben thought he knew about his family, about his life.
The revelation of Peter Hartman.
Ben tracks down his friend Frederick, but eventually finds not him, but his identical twin, Peter, alive in a remote cabin.
Peter, who was supposed to be dead.
He had faked his death 4 years prior in that plane crash, intentionally left only dental records for identification, making sure the world and this organization believed he was gone.
Why? What did he tell Ben?
He explains the gravity of the threat. He faked his death to protect Ben and their mother from what he calls the corporation, or sometimes just they,
He suspected the organization was watching their family.
and that simply killing him would just move the target to the next heir. So going into hiding was a defensive measure, a way to break the chain.
And Peter reveals his personal crusade. What started all of this? It wasn't just paranoia.
No, it was sparked by his horror over the details coming out about Holocaust survivors being built out of their assets in Swiss banks, the whole Nazi gold scandal.
And that led him to research his own father, Max Hartman.
And this is the critical lie that shatters the entire family legacy. Max Hartman, the legendary Holocaust survivor, the beloved philanthropist, was actually an Obersturmführer, a lieutenant in Hitler's SS.
Wait, hold on. The sources also confirm he was a rich Jew who paid 40 million Swiss francs to ransom his family and others out of the camps. How can he be both? How do you maintain that dual identity for decades without anyone knowing?
That's the crux of Sigma's power, right from the very beginning. Peter discovered that Max kept his SS designation specifically to maintain the high-level German government contacts that were crucial for the formation of Sigma A.G. in 1945.
So he was living this elaborate, impossible fabrication.
A deal with the devil. He did it to save his family, but in doing so, he became a founding pillar of this terrifying corporate entity. It suggests that even back in 1945, this organization had the power to manage his entire identity, his entire history.
So we now know Max Hartman was a key figure. What exactly is this Sigma AG document that Peter was hiding?
Peter had hidden it inside the structure of his built-in bookcases in the cabin. A clever hiding place, protecting it from fire, or just a casual search.
And it's a single page.
A single-page, fragile, yellowed mimeographed sheet. It's the front page of a corporate filing, officially establishing Sigma A.G.
And the date is just chilling. April 6, 1945.
The war is winding down, the Third Reich is collapsing around them. But these men aren't focused on surrender. They're focused on establishing a massive international holding company.
And the list of directors is staggering.
It includes names of existing corporations, moguls, powerful chairman figures like Weston, Avery Henderson, Emile Menard, side by side with former Nazi officials.
Specifically Max Hartman and the notorious Nazi scientist Gerhard Lenz.
Peter was certain Sigma A.G. was a dummy corporation, a front. It was established with pooled, stolen assets, basically forming a financial fortress for the post-war era.
This one sheet of paper shows that while governments were fighting a war, the true powers, the industrialists, the financiers, were already planning the peace.
And ensuring their own financial continuity, regardless of who won. They were creating a structure that transcended national borders and political allegiances.
While all this is unfolding with Ben, Anna Navarro is tracing the dead men on her list. She travels to Halifax, Nova Scotia, to investigate one of them, a man named Mailhot.
And she immediately runs into the kind of bureaucratic hurdles you'd expect from a cover-up. The body has already been embalmed for burial.
Which would potentially ruin any meaningful toxicology screen for the specific kind of poison she suspects they're using.
But she doesn't back down. This is where her tenacity really shines. She demands extreme measures from the medical examiner. She instructs them to flay the body.
Flay the body? You mean remove the skin?
In large chunks, yes.
Yeah.
She wants them to search specifically for the minuscule entry point of the killer's weapon.
Why such an extreme, gruesome measure?
Because she knows a professional would use a 25-gauge needle. It's incredibly fine, almost invisible. They'd use it to administer a synthetic neurotoxin. If you don't find that tiny entry point, the toxin itself, if it's designed properly, will metabolize and leave no trace in the blood during a standard autopsy.
So they need the injection point to prove it was murder, not natural causes.
Exactly. It's the only way. And that level of forensic detail proves this is not amateur hour.
While she's investigating, she also uncovers Mailhot's financial trail.
Right. He was a factotum, an assistant for a wealthy press baron. And he was regularly receiving these steadily increasing annual payouts, which just abruptly stopped right before he died.
Suggesting he was being paid for silence?
Or he was an original member of the Sigma network who was now being systematically eliminated. He'd rusticated himself in Nova Scotia, moved from big cities like London and Toronto to what he thought was a safe, lower-profile life. But the killer still found him.
And the killer found Anna, too.
A chilling near miss. Outside her inn, a car deliberately targets her, tries to run her down, before just unaccountably disappearing. This confirms the danger isn't theoretical. She is now a primary target.
And this is the moment Bartlett, her boss at the ICU, steps in to give her the bigger corporate context.
He explains that true power resided not in government bureaucracy, but in personal networks. It all dates back to the OSS founder Bill Donovan and, crucially, Allen Dulles.
Dulles is key here. He wasn't just the CIA director in the 50s. He was also this powerful private citizen who ran the international finance division of a major law firm.
And Bartlett emphasizes that Dulles' firm was instrumental in weaving a spider's web all across Europe.
That phrase, spider's web, is so important.
It refers to a network of confederates, of contacts enlisted among the Allies, the Axis, and neutrals alike. It was a structure that was truly international and owed allegiance only to itself.
So it's an amateur's error to think that these major post-war decisions were being made by politicians.
They were being dictated by private interests. And Peter Hartman's research into this dark corporate history confirms this exact ideology: profit over patriotism.
He noted that ITT was a stakeholder in German bombers during the war.
Ford built military trucks for the German side, and critically, IBM's Hollerith machines enabled Hitler to round up undesirables with this chilling, terrifying efficiency.
These historical examples just underscore the core ideology of Sigma.
Their allegiance was to a higher ideology: profit. The war was just a massive, inconvenient distraction from the pursuit of the dollar. The men who founded Sigma A.G. believed that national identity was disposable, capital was eternal.
The pace of this deep dive really picks up now because the Sigma Protocol's agents are moving incredibly fast. Ben, having found his brother Peter, now pays the ultimate price for exposing his location.
They're found by the shooter, the man known as the architect or the ponytail man, at that remote inn.
And the assassination of Peter is described as just ruthlessly efficient.
He's killed instantly, a single bullet through the skull. The killer's face is described as pale and unnervingly unlined, almost tight, suggesting either extreme youth or some kind of chemical enhancement. He isn't just a killer, he's a specialist in eradication.
Ben escapes the carnage, now driven by vengeance as much as survival, and he heads toward Schur to contact Peter's lawyer, Matthias Deschner.
And Deschner confirms that Ben's earlier meeting at the Union Bank of Switzerland was, in fact, the tripwire. It's what alerted Sigma to the possibility that a Hartman twin was still alive.
Ben's attempts to use his real identity are quickly shut down. He gets arrested at the UBS by a banker named Suchet, who flags him as an illegal traveler using Peter's old ID.
He has to resort to this intensely desperate maneuver to escape, feigning a severe claustrophobia fit to lure the guards into a small, narrow space.
And he manages to disarm them at gunpoint in that tiny room. It's a brutal, narrow escape.
But the danger is relentless. Right after, he forces another man, a Lemel, to give him information in an alleyway. And Lemel is instantly killed by a precision, long-distance shot.
That detail is so key. The shot kills him mid-sentence.
It reinforces that Ben is being watched not just by the close-range professional, the architect, but also by a long-range marksman, probably covering the whole area. This shows you the layered security and absolute ruthlessness of Sigma's cleanup crew.
While Ben is running for his life across the Alps, Anna is closing in on the how of the assassinations. She's focused on the forensic reports.
She investigates the death of Gaston Rossignol, another name on the Sigma list, in Zurich. And the Vienna authorities confirm her suspicions. Rossignol was poisoned.
And the poison is incredibly sophisticated.
It's identified as a synthetic neurotoxin found in his ocular fluid, not his blood, which is why it was so hard to trace. It's a synthetic analog of the Contucumis C snail venom. It functions as a skeletal muscle relaxant, similar to succinylcholine chloride or SUCCUS.
So why is this poison so effective for a professional murder?
Well, succinylcholine chloride is a skeletal muscle relaxant. In small doses, it's used in surgery. But in a massive targeted dose, it stops every muscle in the body, including the diaphragm. It causes instantaneous respiratory arrest.
And because it's an analog of this venom,
it perfectly mimics the symptoms of a sudden cardiac arrest. And it's broken down by the body extremely quickly. So by the time a standard tox screen is run, it's gone. No trace in the blood. It creates a perfect natural death.
That is truly the perfect murder weapon for an organization that has had decades to plan.
And the connection to the corporation is made through the patent.
This exact compound was recently patented on May 16th by a small Philadelphia-based biotech firm called Vortex.
And crucially, Vortex Labs is wholly owned by the European chemicals and technology giant Armacon. And on the board of Armacon is the prominent philanthropist Jorgen Lenz.
The link is undeniable. A major corporate giant is manufacturing the perfect murder weapon.
This confirms the hits are centrally coordinated and tied to the highest levels of global commerce. And meanwhile, Bartlett calls Anna with some disturbing news. Another Sigma victim, Hendrik Korsgaard, has just been murdered in Holland. The killings are accelerating.
Bartlett notes grimly that the perpetrators have better sources than the U.S. government.
They're tracking people the CIA thought were unreachable, which suggests a leak or a mole at the highest level of U.S. intelligence.
So now Ben shifts his focus to Vienna, to Jürgen Lenz, the man whose company makes the poison. Lenz is known as this great philanthropist, but he's also the supposed son of the infamous Nazi scientist Gerhard Lenz.
Ben uses an alias, Robert Simon, and a pretext about the Lenz Foundation to get a meeting.
And Jürgen Lenz's official story is compelling, almost designed for sympathy.
Right. He claims to run a foundation dedicated to studying his father's crimes. He expresses profound loathing for the Nazis, and he says his father, Gerhard, escaped to Argentina after the war, leaving him and his mother penniless.
But when Ben directly challenges Lenz about SATA, that polite philanthropic veneer just cracks instantly.
Lenz is completely unfazed. He reveals he knows Ben is lying, and he questions if Ben is actually CIA. The sources suggest Lenz's story of being the tormented son of a Nazi is almost too polished, too perfect to be entirely true.
Ben is walking a real tightrope with Lenz now, but he has the one piece of physical evidence that could shatter Lenz's carefully constructed identity.
The 1945 photo of the Sigma principles. He shows it to him.
Lenz recognizes the figures, but he's stunned when Ben points out his own father, Max Hartman, the supposed Holocaust survivor Ben grew up believing in, is pictured right next to Gerhard Lenz.
A monster known for his horrific twin experiments during the war. This exposes a shared, awful history between the Hartman and Lenz families.
And Lenz admits he's worried about frightened old men determined to die with at least their good names intact. He says they're drawing on decades of favors and loyalty to protect their history.
Which confirms the current wave of murders isn't about profit. It's a cleanup operation. It's orchestrated by the original generation of Sigma founders, likely led by this modern-day Lenz, to make sure their dark past stays buried.
At the same time, Anna is dealing with these insidious internal threats. She meets with a contact named Ostro, who says he's a CIA official.
And Ostro paints Ben Hartman as not just a target, but as a dangerous security risk. He calls him a two-woman man.
What exactly does that phrase, two-woman man, mean in agency slang?
In intelligence parlance, it's slang for a double agent, someone who's running parallel operations for two different intelligence services.
And Ostro claims Ben passed sensitive intelligence to Mossad freelancers.
And he backs it up with unique CIA document watermarks and sanitation procedure details, things only a true insider would know.
It's a classic trap. Anna is being fed highly convincing information that's designed to make her distrust the only person who can actually help her.
She has to question everything. Is Ben a foreign agent? Or is Ostro the actual imposter, using Ben's reputation as a tool to throw her off the scent?
To get to the heart of Sigma's geopolitical function, Ben and Anna risk traveling to Paris to meet a man named Georges Chardin.
Chardin was the former aide-de-camp to Émile Menard, one of the Sigma founders. He's living in hiding now, a reclusive, traumatized figure. Part of his external ear is entirely missing, which shows you the high price he paid for defecting.
And Chardin provides the most incredible testimony about the true scope of this conspiracy. He reveals that Sigma was a hidden consortium of industrialist steel, petrochemicals, technology, finance.
They didn't see themselves as mere businessmen. They saw themselves as the world's genuine leaders, the marionette masters.
He states that they were scripting political and economic decisions long before heads of state even announced them.
This is the world-changing revelation. Chardin specifically points to the reconstruction of Europe, the Marshall Plan, as something whose details had been outlined, mandated, and pre-approved by Sigma long before any politician took public credit for it.
Wait, if Sigma mandated the Marshall Plan, how did they pull that off? What was the mechanism for control?
It connects right back to that 1945 corporate filing. Sigma A.G. controlled a huge portfolio of companies across all the key industries. Their ownership stakes were hidden through complex networks of private equity firms and holding companies set up by Dolz's law firm.
So, by controlling the supply chains.
Steel, energy, emerging technology.
Yeah.
All the things necessary for European recovery, they could dictate the terms of that recovery. The West essentially became a subsidiary managed by this invisible megacorporation.
That is a chilling, chilling thought.
Chardin explains that after WWII, with advances like xerography, binary computing, and missile guidance, the possibilities seemed infinite.
But he opposed Sigma's new phase. He explains the original goal was financial control, but the new leadership was focused on something much more personal.
Perpetuating a stable leadership by selecting and maintaining a chosen elite, moving beyond just resource allocation into the physical realm.
But the conversation ends abruptly. Violently.
Chardin is assassinated mid-sentence by a high-powered rifle shot fired from across the street. The ruthlessness of Sigma's cleanup crew is confirmed yet again. Ben and Anna just dive for cover, narrowly escaping the architect's long-range partner.
With the loss of Chardin, they go back to Vienna for the historical link, visiting Jacob Sonnenfeld, the famed Nazi hunter.
And Sonnenfeld confirms the foundational Sigma legend. Powerful men secretly transferring stolen assets out of the fatherland.
And he reveals the ugly secret behind Max Hartman's seemingly dual life. He confirms Max was a rich Jew who paid 40 million Swiss francs for his family's safe passage.
And he kept the SS officer designation to secure the necessary German government contacts for Sigma. Sonnenfeld noted it was a complex, morally compromised decision, but one driven by survival.
Sonnenfeld also connects the science dots. He links Gerhard Lenz, Jürgen's supposed father, and Joseph Strasser, who is Hitler's science advisor and the inventor of Zyklon B.
Strasser was a brilliant but terrible scientist who relied heavily on human experimentation. Darshall freezing experiments, Mengele twin studies, famine experiments for breakthroughs that are still cited today. And Strasser had also escaped to Argentina.
So the organization wasn't just built on finance, it was built on horrific, stolen science.
And the final puzzle piece links the past to the present. Ben learns from Max's old secretary that his college mentor, Professor Godwin, had called Max just before Max disappeared. Godwin ran a center for the study of human values that Max funded.
This call is the key. Ben connects the name Semmering, which Lenz's widow had mentioned earlier, with an old, isolated clinic in the Austrian Alps known ominously as the Clockworks.
This is where Strasser had shipped sophisticated electron microscopes decades ago. This has to be the location of Sigma's ultimate horrifying project.
With Strasser confirmed as the inventor of Zyklon B, Anna's focus immediately shifts to Argentina. She flies to Buenos Aires to find him.
And she immediately faces resistance from Interpol's Miguel Antonio Peralta, who is clearly tipped off about her arrival. He even steals her research package. The global reach of Sigma is just staggering.
Anna and Ben are then attacked in Buenos Aires. Ben notes that their abductors seem specifically interested in confirming Anna's identity as an agent of the U.S. Justice Department.
Which suggests her entire investigation was compromised from the moment Bartlett assigned it to her. She wasn't an investigator. She was a tracking mechanism.
They finally locate Strasser in a secluded compound, but not before the final trap is sprung. A guard is shot, and then the man who initially appears to save them, a ruddy-faced killer, is instantly killed by the ancient, seemingly useless guard.
And this is the great reveal of the main operative. The old guard removes latex prosthetics, unveiling the smooth-faced man known as the Architect, the killer who murdered Peter and Chardin.
He's identified as Yehuda Malkin, speaking with a Middle Eastern accent. He was playing the long con, posing as a protector just to capture or kill them when they were most vulnerable.
And Strasser, the notorious scientist, admits he was a necessary go-between for Sigma to secure top German contacts. But he confirms his trust was betrayed by the new leadership, Jürgen Lenz.
And he confirms Lenz was doing molecular research that would change the world at the Clockworks Clinic in Austria.
So Ben and Anna, now using fake IDs as Mr. and Mrs. David Payne, head directly to the Austrian Alps. Ben gets information on the Schloss Zerwald, the Clockworks, from a local land registry. It's built over a system of natural limestone caves.
The infiltration is incredibly perilous. Ben uses mountaineering equipment, descending into this treacherous, ice-covered cave system.
The sources detail the slick, watery ice, the close, claustrophobic tunnels he has to billy crawl through. He narrowly avoids hypothermia and a fatal fall.
And once inside the clinic, the scale of the horror is just immediately apparent. He discovers a hidden ward, confirming this is no sanatorium.
On the shelves are rows of dusky glass bottles holding preserved human organs, indicating decades of research derived from Strasser's initial Nazi-era work.
But the most shocking discovery is the children. Ben finds a fenced-in area with large military-style tents. Inside are young children suffering from progeria, premature aging.
They look wizened and old, tethered to metal columns, receiving VV drips through plastic tubing.
And this immediately connects to the elite patients he observes inside the main facility who are undergoing aggressive longevity treatments, EKGs, stairmasters.
These include figures like Arnold Carr, conferring that the powerful people Ben was investigating were all part of this clinical project.
And then Ben encounters his old college mentor, Professor Godwin, who is miraculously rejuvenated. He looks decades younger than his 82 years.
Godwin is part of the project. He was recruited by Lenz, and he confirms the motivation, the desire to vastly extend the useful lifespan of a great humanitarian or thinker.
The lure of near immortality, especially for someone who believes their life's work is unfinished, is a powerful hook.
And Jürgen Lenz, who it turns out is not Gerhard Lenz's son at all, but an imposter who sees the legacy, explains the core science.
Okay, so let's break down the science of the clockworks. What is the mechanism of aging they claim to have defeated?
It's all about telomeres. Telomeres are the protective caps at the end of your chromosomes. Every time a cell divides, those caps get shorter. When they get too short, the cell can no longer divide, and it dies. That's aging.
And Lenz's research cracked the code on that.
Gerhard Lenz's original research, continued by this imposter, figured out how to activate an enzyme, telomerase, which rebuilds and extends those chromosome tips. It effectively turns on an enzyme to keep the cellular clocks ticking backward.
But why are the progeric children the necessary key to all this?
Progeria is a genetic disease of rapid premature aging. These children have drastically shortened telomeres. They are essentially living case studies in accelerated aging. By experimenting on them, Lenz could track the results of his telomere extension therapies in fast forward,
allowing him to perfect the technique needed to rejuvenate his wealthy, elite patients.
It's an elegant scientific solution built upon pure, chilling barbarism.
And Lenz coldly justifies this. He dismisses the children war refugees as displaced children the world doesn't miss. He uses this chilling utilitarian calculus saying, every great achievement has come at the cost of human lives.
And then the final, brutal, institutional betrayal is revealed. Ben demands to see Anna, whom Lenz claims is also investigating the clinic. Lenz wheels in a patient.
Is Alan Bartlett, the head of the ICU who assigned Anna the case in the first place. He's holding a short-barreled automatic weapon.
Bartlett is the mole. He is the ultimate agent of Sigma, the institutional trap. He orchestrated Anna's entire investigation from the start, using her tenacity and access to locate the remaining Angeli Ravelli.
The rebel angels.
The Sigma members like Chardin who opposed the shift toward the longevity project. He used Anna so they could be systematically eliminated. She was unknowingly used as a weapon against her own allies.
Anna, meanwhile, is being held elsewhere in the clinic. She's tied down, she's drugged with ketamine, a potent dissociative anesthetic.
But she's trained. Her years of intelligence training immediately pay off. She uses a tiny safety pin that she had hidden in her mouth to work on her restraints. She feigns grogginess to get the nurse, Gerda, to turn her back.
And with a massive burst of adrenaline and skill, she frees herself. She grabs a doctor's white coat to blend in and arms herself with an Uzi machine gun she manages to commandeer from an unsupervised guard station.
She successfully seals off the wing, jams the doors, and secures her path to the main lab where Ben is trapped.
She crashes the party just as Lenz is trying to convince Ben to join the immortal elite.
She uses the Uzi to force Lenz to start shutting down the security system, toggling off the monitors, which unintentionally leads to chaos. The captive progeric children begin to scramble out of their ward, terrified but free.
Lenz doesn't go down without a fight, though. He pulls a concealed brass-plated pistol from the base of a lamp.
Ben and Anna overwhelm him, but they are immediately confronted by Bartlett, the mole. Bartlett, the supposedly upstanding head of the ICU, levels an assault rifle at them, demanding control of a nearby helicopter.
Ben, drawing on his extensive experience as a pilot and an adventurer, gets them airborne, but Bartlett is a huge threat in that confined space.
Once they're in the air, Ben executes this daring, jarring halt maneuver, an abrupt deceleration and a sharp turn that hurls Bartlett against a metal partition, knocking him unconscious for a moment.
They restrain him, but in a final, chillingly desperate suicidal act, Bartlett throws himself toward the open helicopter door as they're taking off.
He tries to pull Anna with him. He'd rather they both die than allow Sigma's secrets to escape.
Ben's quick, iron-like grip saves Anna, but Bartlett plunges to his death below the Schloss. It's a tragic end for the man who represented the deep institutional betrayal at the heart of this conspiracy.
And as they flee, the final dramatic act unfolds. The assassins, in a desperate attempt to erase all evidence of the clockworks, detonate powerful explosives at the cave entrance where Ben entered.
But the blast triggers something much larger.
An avalanche. A great, unstoppable wave of snow rolls down the mountainside, effectively burying and destroying the clockworks and all the terrifying research, the preserved organs, the children's ward that was contained within.
The entire dark facility is wiped clean from the Austrian Alps.
And Ben and Anna escape, forced to contemplate the staggering reality of what they've uncovered. A corporate shadow government pursuing literal immortality through the systematic use of Nazi-era science and human experimentation, willing to betray entire nations and use children as laboratory subjects.
This deep dive into the Sigma protocol reveals a layered reality that is far more complex and, frankly, horrifying than a simple geopolitical thriller.
At its core, it's a decades-old corporate cabal, Sigma A.G., founded in 1945 by global industrialists and figures like Max Hartman. They achieved geopolitical control not through standard political lobbying, but by directly scripting world events.
Like the Marshall Plan?
Exactly, through financial dominance and technological control.
The sources show us that Sigma's initial goal was, financial protection and resource allocation. But its ultimate objective, spearheaded by this charismatic imposter Jorgen Lenz, shifted to something far darker.
Biological immortality for the chosen elite. They leveraged the horrific legacy of Nazi-era science, specifically telomere research on progeric children, to ensure the perpetual life and leadership of those who were already deemed powerful.
The terrifying institutional complexity of this operation is what really stands out. I mean, it required recruiting respected academics like Professor Godwin, corrupting global intelligence officials like Alan Bartlett,
and maintaining a massive financial portfolio that transcended any national oversight. It demonstrates the terrifying, invisible reach of this hidden power structure that could literally use the U.S. Justice Department as an unwitting cleanup crew.
The knowledge Ben and Anna gained came at an incredible price. The deaths of Peter, Chardin, and so many others.
And we have to acknowledge the profound complicity of Anna Navarro herself. She was unknowingly used by the very forces she intended to fight to eliminate those rebel angels who threatened Sigma's leadership shift. She was a crucial, necessary tool in their final elimination campaign.
So we leave you with this provocative thought. If the structure of modern society, our politics, our global business, even the direction of certain scientific research into longevity and bioengineering was secretly managed by a consortium like Sigma for over half a century, what aspects of our own history, even today, might still be carefully curated cover stories? Stories designed to hide the true machinations of the powerful.
The evidence of Sigma A.G.'s existence suggests that the most profound drivers of global events might not be found in your history books, but in the private corporate filings and secret scientific labs of the world. What truth are you accepting today that might simply be a necessary fabrication for the powerful?